Apparently feeling anxious is the norm. A recent study of 300 college students shows a link between heavy technology use and anxiety. And here to talk about that and a few other medical hot topics, please welcome our panel of doctors. Bariatric surgeon Dr. Robert Marvin, radiologist Dr. Melissa O'Toole, chiropractor Dr. Tony DeRamus, and ear, nose, and throat specialist Dr. Raza Pasha. Welcome to the show this morning. Good morning. I remember back in the day, the two people who basically had pagers were doctors and journalists, right? And if you didn't have your pager with you, oh no, they might be trying to get in touch with me. Same kind of for you having your phones. You all need to be well connected. But it just seems like we are so connected and too connected at times.
Definitely.
The anxiety part is like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, for our business, my business in particular, we have to be available to the patients 24 hours a day. So it's a necessity. Sometimes wish we could get away from that a little bit, but obviously there are people that want to use that frequently.
Yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, I think, because, you know, back in the old days, someone could say, hey, I called you. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I must have been out of the house.
No, I mean, the issue becomes
but now it's like you are always available.
Yeah, and it becomes an issue when you're using it as a distraction because you're uncomfortable and using it as a coping mechanism. So if you're in a social situation and you want to withdraw, instead of interacting with your group, instead you go in a corner and start checking emails and finding out what's online. That becomes a deterrent.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest concern with this. I wrote a book on marijuana addiction in 2011, and in doing the studies for addiction, you realize that all these drugs are the same, just a different mechanism to allow us to escape or use it as a coping mechanism.
Yeah,
so if we're
or
doing
have a
that
buffer between life and yourself.
As a buffer, so if we're using our phone for those purposes of a coping mechanism, you know, where do we really learn those skills outside of that?
Even communicating. Like it's easier for us to text something or email something to somebody as opposed to actually say what you feel.
Absolutely.
All right, and emojis, for goodness sakes. You have to decipher all that type of stuff. All right, this one makes sense right here. The NFL acknowledges that CTE, there's a link with football, and not necessarily football, but the fact that you're going to have that kind of pressure and trauma to a body is going to have some impact later on in life.
Yes. You know, I think and when we see this, there were some problems with how the NFL handled this, and I kind of understand from a business standpoint what they had to do, because there are so many other sports out there that are dealing with the same thing. We just got off the rodeo, so I'm on the sports medicine team there, and the bull riders, and even the bareback riders, and they're concussing all the time.
Right.
So this isn't something new just to football, but we made it aware. Now the reality is, however, that they're athletes. They think like this. Even knowing the risks of it, they're still going to play the game. So it's our responsibility to make the game a little bit safer for them.
And how do we do that? Is it better equipment? Is it you can't run into that guy anymore? I mean, it's like...
Well, I mean, the human body wasn't designed to be able to take those type of forces repeatedly over time.
Right, and that's part of the selling power of the game is the violence of the tackling. Yeah. And with the players being stronger and faster as time goes on, I mean, I think that leads to more injury, and I think probably the level of injury now is higher than it would have been 15 or 20 or 30
and the
years
allures there. I remember Roger Staubach saying, you know, back in my day, we'd make our money and then we'd go do a part-time job during the off-season. Today, there is no off-season, and you're signing $100 million contracts, so the lure is there, but at the same time, at what cost? Yeah. All right. Now, I like this next study here. It says that women need more sleep than men. Do you know why? Because they say that our brains are much more complex. What say ye, Dr. O'Toole?
Yeah, you two discuss this one, Sue. We'll stay out of this.
Well, where's that going? No surprise to us, but...
I think that's something we already knew, right? It's just something that's now being published.
Is there a difference between just kind of... They oftentimes say that women are more used to multitasking.
I think so. I definitely think so. We're the caretakers, we're mothers, we're used to doing more. So it comes as no surprise that we would need more sleep. Do we get it? Not often. Yeah. But I do think we should try and make that a priority. They've already published many, many times that children who even get 10 or 15 more minutes of sleep a night do much better in school. And to me, that seems like such a short amount of time. So if a woman could get that extra 20 minutes a night, I think she'd be
And I think sleep is one of those most underrated things. We've talked about this a lot, and it's like it's the body's chance to push the reset button.
And actually, you know what the biggest group that is sleep deprived in this country?
Who is it?
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. We are in a sleep-deprived society. When I see patients that come in with insomnia and tiredness, we first go to pathologies like sleep apnea, which we'll talk about later. But more importantly, the #1 issue for sleep is sleep deprivation.
Yeah.
And with kids, women, men, across the gambit.
And we see it show up in so many different ways in terms of that domino effect. For example, weight gain. You don't get enough sleep, it can cause weight gain.
Well, and vice versa. The majority of our patients have some sort of sleep disturbance. Most of them have sleep apnea, diagnosed sleep apnea, and fortunately the treatments that we do tend to reverse that problem, so we see an improvement with that usually.
All right. There's a woman who says that she had beauty parlor stroke syndrome. And what this was is that she's suing a salon because a bad shampoo job almost killed her. Her head was tilted back too far in the bowl. And so at first when you hear beauty parlor stroke syndrome, I know some of you are kind of like going, what? Stop it. But it makes sense. You go back into that bowl, and those things can be hard sometimes, but if your neck at that angle just drop down, and then they're like messing with it the whole bit, and they don't have a degree to do that, like a chiropractor, then there can be some issues.
Absolutely. And as we discussed earlier, this lady more than likely was presenting with a stroke somewhere down the line anyways. But this is something that we see in our office quite frequently with people coming in with headaches, with vertigo from that full extension. The beauty parlor industry, they know this, and they've known this for a long time, so they've modified the watch things to support the back of the head. But the reality is if you're in a position where it's more than 15 to 20 degrees extended for an extended period of time, then I would say get up.
Yeah, and if it's uncomfortable, get up.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, because she had symptoms a week later of weakness in the left side of her body, nausea, balance issues, and the whole bit was rushed to the ER, and they said basically that's kind of what they coined that. All right, if you want to avoid a cold, try a tattoo, or better yet, many tattoos. Yes. So when I saw this topic, look, they say that David Beckham is one of the most healthiest men in the world. Boy, I'd like to play a game of soccer with him. But anyway, he's apparently the most healthy, one of the most healthy men in the world, as is Adam Levine, and they both happen to have a lot of tattoos. Okay, give me the science behind this, because this is one of those things where you kind of go, okay, they're healthy guys who work out a lot and the whole bit, and they happen to have tattoos. Do the tattoos really have anything to do with it?
Yeah, I like tattoos. I think that it's a work of art. I may or may not have some myself, but I think may or may not.
No.
I'm not going to say.
No.
I may end up on the screen. But tattoos, the way that they work, the way the ink stays inside the skin is because the body will encapsulate that as a foreign substance. So I think what Christopher Flynn, who headed the study, was saying is that people that have multiple tattoos probably have better immune systems because they held the ink longer, they were able to tolerate the multiple tattoos. I don't think he was really looking at this as a way to stimulate the immune system per se.
Or to say you need to go out and get some, but this is what I did this weekend. Okay, look her.
Ooh.
Okay, look at that right there. Yeah. Okay, but don't worry, it's just one of those henna ones, you know. So, my son was like, "Mommy, don't do that." My mom said, "You're going to join a motorcycle gang next." And I was like, "Mom, it's just a tattoo. It's all right." But anyway, it's a little henna tattoo, so it will be fading there. All right. Today on Facebook, does being away from your cell phone cause you anxiety? Log on. Let us know if things were easier when you weren't in touch 24/7. We'll share some of your comments a little bit later on in the show. When we come back, find out how you can slim down almost overnight. No magic diets, no pills, and no surgery.